Okay, we're back at IPC Apex 2025 in the Decode podcast booth, and we're joined by Judy Warner from the EEcosystem.
The ecosystem.
I went a little hard on the emphasis on that second.
Yeah,
You
sure.
and everybody else. It's okay.
It's a clever name, and it's great to have Judy here because she kind of does what we do a bit, right? So we're fellow podcasters, and we're really glad to be in person with you, and it was great seeing you up at DesignCon not too long ago as well. So
Yeah.
So
and
fun.
Judy's one of the people I reached out to in the beginning before we even started this podcast, and she's like, "Hey, Riverside," and Zach was like, "Use Riverside," and hey, use this, make sure your mics are this, and do cameras like this, and she was a huge help in helping us start out with it, like tools and stuff, because you've been doing it a lot longer than us, especially.
I not bragging. It was accidental. I call myself the accidental marketer. But when I started, or I was told we were going to start a podcast at Altium, that was 7 years ago.
Wow.
That's ancient. Me and Mike Conrad, like, that's forever ago. And yeah, so it's been quite a journey. And I'm so glad to see you guys. You are so fun. And I think you guys are really going to have an impact on the industry. So, we got to help each other in this space because it's where engineers are going these days.
Yeah.
I'd be so curious to hear your why. Why did you start your podcast? What were kind of the primary goals, or what were you trying to accomplish? Help us understand, what makes you tick and why you chose to do it.
Good question. So, as I said before, I was the director of community and ecosystem engagement, basically, at Altium, and they brought me in because they were really disconnected from their customer base because they don't have an outbound sales force, and they were also disconnected sort of from the industry because they had a brilliant go-to-market strategy, but the voice of the customer got lost. And so I'd been in the industry now for over 30 years I was sales. So I was calling on all the OEMs that you guys serve now, selling bare printed circuit boards and then assemblies. I had a rep firm for a while. So I'd been working with design engineers or head of engineering team, trying to help them solve problem to get product made since the 80s. That's how old I am. And so I've kind of seen the whole ride. I've seen it from like pre-China, when it was all like amazingly, like almost brutally, there was so much money. And
It was just thriving, right?
it was just insanely wonderful and great and all of that. And, and then China happened, and, so I've ridden quite the ride. And so it's given me so much empathy for the weight that design engineers and engineering teams have to carry that sometimes is not appreciated inside, especially if they're in a large design team. They're asked more today than they've ever been asked. It's actually ungodly. And I don't think there's a lot of empathy, and I think their voice needs to be heard, and I think they need advocacy to help plug them in to thought leaders in the industry, and just kind of show them where maybe blind spots are because they're so dang busy. The challenge of self-educating. So podcasting is just a way where you can go. I used to try to get like one takeaway that you can start applying today, right? It's like just one little nugget.
Yeah.
And so I think that's sort of where my heart was, is to just be of service, right? And then help Altium. I think over the course of time I was there, and I mean, honestly, it wasn't my idea to start it. Somebody came to me and said, head of digital marketing, hey, you're going to do a podcast. And I'm like, all righty then. And then there was 3 of us that got together. One was multimedia, and the other was an amazing like SEO content person. And we all stood there looking at each other with, deer in the headlights. And I'm the fearless leader, being the oldest one. And I looked at him and I said, well, guys, it'll suck till it doesn't. So I'm like, there is no playbook 7 years ago to start a podcast. There are some YouTube things. And but it was uncharted territory. And we sort of just learned as we went, and we got better as we went. And it's why I'm so thrilled to see podcasts like yours come up, because I think this, I was telling you before we started recording that True Marketing, which is a big market research firm, did a broad marketing to engineer research project, and 73% of engineers are listening to podcasts.
That's staggering.
That's
Staggering.
amazing.
Yeah.
So we need to reach them, and we need to be giving them content.
And they're kind of underserved right now.
Underserved.
73% of people want that, and how many available options are there? There's not a ton, right?
And also, and how do we serve them?
Yeah.
Right. And we're all figuring that out still together. 7 years later, I'll run into people and they're like, that thing you did. And I'm like, good.
That was another thing we were talking about before we started recording, was how do you serve them? And the idea is we kind of have the same mutual interest of connecting the different groups of people that generally over history have only been working within their own team, their own
Silo is a good term, right?
Yeah, it's totally siloed. You don't have connectivity between the designers and the assemblers and the fabricators and the end user. I mean, none of these people talk to each other generally, right?
And less so since COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to understand the engineers need to understand the designers need to understand what's actually possible on the fabrication side, what's actually possible in assembly. And even if it's possible, doesn't make sense. Are you actually going to be able to make money manufacturing this product? Is it, like how much complexity? It's the more education everyone has on the other person's roles and responsibilities, the better everyone will know how to serve each other, and should be better products in the end for everyone, right?
In the olden days, you guys, we used to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And be in one facility.
Yeah.
But it's been so decentralized, and it's so complex now, more now than ever, as AI is breathing down our neck, that we become more specialized, not less.
Yeah.
And so I just think, okay, at the risk of taking over your show, why did you guys start?
Well,
Sean's fault.
yeah, Sean's fault. Who wants to tell the story? Okay, I'll go. So, the three of us were connected on LinkedIn, and we would have these chats, these conversations, and they were always problem-based, right? These guys run the same assembly equipment, and then if they couldn't figure out between them, like, well, maybe it's a stencil. So we started bouncing all these issues off of each other, and then eventually that started to grow to include a couple of other friends, many of them who we've met with this week, and we were having these mini forums where somebody would bring something to the table.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was me, like, hey, I have a customer experiencing this, like what has been your experience with solving for it, or what solution, or it could have gone the other way as well. So we were having these mini forums that were delivering results for our individual businesses, success in our jobs, right? So at some point we kind of thought, this is probably something that would be useful to other people. So our goal for the podcast, or our format for the podcast, was just to let anybody be a fly in the wall during one of those conversations, have guests on that have specialties in certain areas, and just hope that folks would watch the podcast and say, I learned how to solve that because of so-and-so who was a guest on the podcast, or I learned about this piece of equipment that I didn't even know existed and I really need it from the podcast. So it was certainly the true aim was just to be informational, educational, and a little bit funny.
And to learn from these experts in these fields,
Absolutely.
like just to be able to get a response from Judy Warner, from
Robert Faranek.
Peter
Robert
Dorbeck, right?
Ferenek's
Like
great.
all of these big name, smart people, right, that are experienced in their field, are devoting an hour, sometimes more time of their life to talk to us about where they're advancing in the field, and maybe we bring up some questions or problems that we had, and it was just selfishly for me, like I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn.
And the friendships and relationships that have started, from these conversations, it's been great. I mean, you talk about the value of like actual human contact. Like
Right.
we meet people online, we have a chat with them, and then we run into them here at the trade show, and it just kind of solidifies that relationship.
I think Judy and I had a 2-hour Zoom call the first time
We did.
Yeah, it was so long.
We started talking about industry, but then it went into relationship. But the thing is, we learned a lot from that. And like Sean needed something, I'm like, yeah, call my buddy Chris. So, it seems sort of counterintuitive, but my friend Tara Dunn and I used to talk about the human element of technology, right? And as everything went so digital, we lost a bit of that, right? And new engineers need to be able to tap into that. And truly, as human beings, we're made for community. So if we can build those communities where people are like, oh, at DesignCon, this guy stopped me, and he had his master's degree as an EE. He said he stopped and did a selfie, and I'm like, what is happening? And he said, oh my gosh, you introduced me to Eric Bogatin, and I consumed all of his stuff. I just got a job at HP Enterprises, and I don't think it'd be overstating that I have this job because you connected me.
Wow.
And I was like, mic drop, I can go home now. I've done my job. Yeah. And then I got to meet you guys, and we spent like an hour together.
Yeah.
And so you don't always know with shows like this, or connecting through podcasts or social media, which is the medium through which we do things now.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, I would encourage people, don't sit on the sidelines, get into the conversation.
Yeah.
That's
Because
what we
a
want.
lot of people will just sit back like little mini stalkers, and they'll watch and they'll listen, but they won't always speak up.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we're all learning together.
The conversation gets more robust with more voices.
It definitely does. Yeah.
Well, this has been an awesome opportunity to have you join us here, Judy. We appreciate it, and on behalf of us all, thank you for being so open with your experience and knowledge in the podcast space, and instead of looking at us like, well, we're trying to do something similar to you and clamming up, you've been nothing but generous with your knowledge, and we really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Takes a village, you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks,
It's been
Judy.
a delight.
Judy.